welcome you to Bucksmont Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's multi-platform worship, where moved by love, we share lifelong journeys of growth, wonder, and healing, nurturing wholeness in society and spirit, creating a community of justice and compassion. I'd like to give a welcome to everyone joining us online and in person today, members, friends, and those who may be newcomers to our community this morning. If you are new to Bucksmont and visiting us in person today, please stop by our visitor center in the front hallway near where you came in. There you can also make a name tag for yourself and find more information about Unitarian Universalism, Bucksmont Fellowship, and upcoming events. If you'd like a hymnal or a printed order of service, those are available near the entrance to the sanctuary. If you are visiting us online or prefer digital methods, please email our office administrator, Beverly, to sign up for our email newsletter and to get connected to our congregation. Each week in our service, we offer time for people to share a joy or sorrow from their lives by texting a phone number. That number will be shared online and on screen for everyone now and later in the service. If you would like to see the order of service, details about upcoming services, and other ways to gather with our community, you can find that on the homepage of our website, www.bucksmontuu.org. There is a lot happening at Bucksmont, and we'd like to highlight these announcements in particular. Reverend Kevin wants to share his regrets at not being able to be in person with you today. He contracted COVID on his recent vacation. He is recovering well and should test negative soon. RE this week from 10:30 to 11:45. Childcare is available for families with little ones 5 and under. They are invited to drop off or stay and play in the nursery as needed. All children are welcome to use the play spaces in the sanctuary and social hall. Our next summer community night at Bucksmont will be a movie night on July 30, starting at 6:30 p.m. Both of our summer movie nights will feature family-friendly movies about young people meeting across the threshold between land and sea. On August 13th, we will have a tabletop game night, and August 27th, we will have a second movie night. Bring a favorite game or play the ones already there. Come for the popcorn, stay for the community. More details in your weekly e-voice or the homepage of the Bucksmont website. Cool Breeze Summer Retreat, August 12th, 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Yoga and meditation, healing, sound bath, spiritual art, and enriching conversation, not to be missed. See the e-voice for details and the link for tickets. As of June, our congregation has reached the milestone of $200,775,000 in donations to our communities since we started the Split Plate. Next Sunday at noon, there will be a UU and U conversation with Reverend Kevin and the membership committee. This is for anyone wanting to learn more about our congregation, Unitarian Universalism, and the path to membership. Use the Zoom link in the e-voice at 12 p.m. or join him in the Fireside Lounge in person. Whether you are a guest, friend, or member, we are glad you are part of our worship service today. as we gather in our sanctuary, in our homes, or watch from mobile screens almost anywhere, we are all together. Those watching now on Sunday, and those who may be watching months from now. We are joined together for worship across both space and time. This is a free, creedless religious congregation. In the discipline of truth and the spirit of universal kinship, we join together in a cooperative quest for religious and ethical values, seeking to apply these values to the development of character, enrichment of the spirit, and service to all. You are welcome here, whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever the color of your skin or your country of origin, no matter your gender expression or gender identity, whatever your age, however you define family, wherever you are at this time, and whatever the source of your faith, you are welcome here.
This morning, as we do each time we gather, we kindle our Unitarian Universalist chalice. We do so today with words from Nita Penfold. No matter what they tell you, let it be about joy. Let it be about the sacred. Self-surviving? No, thriving. Shining its way to the knowledge within, let it be about blooming. The unfolding of the universe through you, because the story of you begins 15 billion years ago with that first flash of being. Please light your chalice at home. Our common chalice is now lit.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Worthington. I use she, her pronouns, and I will be your hymn leader for today. The first hymn is number 40, The Morning Hangs a Signal. So please rise as you're willing and able and join us in singing our first hymn.
At the beginning of our program year, we hold the water ceremony to regather as a community and bring together the many streams of people into one place. At the end of our program year, we recognize the flower celebration to honor the beauty that is created by joining together the many individual flowers into a bouquet. Today, we begin a third ritual, a book communion, to honor the power of stories to transform the world and the special place words hold in our lives and in our congregations. Why now? Summer is a time for storytelling. The big Hollywood blockbusters told on movie screens in cool, dark theaters, the scary stories told around a campfire, and funny stories told to keep the road trip moving forward, and the stories we make up as children dance among the fireflies and we look up at the stars. And so this morning, we honor the place of stories in our lives and the particular power they hold when shared with another. In this time of book banning, as in all times when people try to limit the flow of information, the ability of stories to open hearts and minds is center stage once more. You were invited to bring a book to share this morning, and in a moment, you are going to be invited to give that book to another person in the congregation. You don't know if they've read it before or if it's a genre they would normally choose. It is a gift freely given because the story holds matters to you and perhaps will also to them. As Margaret begins to play, if you brought a book to share, rise from your seat with your book and go to another person to exchange books with them. Maybe you know the person really well, maybe only in passing. As you exchange books, tell the other person how old you were the first time you read it. If you didn't bring a book today, that's okay. After folks with books stand and find one another to exchange books, everyone who didn't bring a book is invited to stand and to find another person and share the name of your favorite book with them. If you are online, we hope you participate by joining in the YouTube chat. In order to see the chat, you do not want to be in full screen. Let's begin. they connect people. They change people from individuals into a community. Stories create connections not only among people together in the present, but across generations, across cultural boundaries, and across imagination. We are invited to speak differently and to think about the words of another, what it might be like to live in their world for a moment. During coffee hour today, keep these conversations going. Ask another person what their favorite book is and why. Share yours with another. Make a list of news stories to read. Maybe start a book group with a person or three, or join Bucksmont's book club, which meets the last Friday of every month. As we bring our book communion to a close, I share Philip Pullman's words. After nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the things we need most in this world. May the stories continue to sustain and connect us always. And now we will sing our children out to their religious exploration time.
The offering in liberal religion is a vital part of our history of faith. As a covenanted community, people who freely choose to be here, our voluntary giving is symbolic of that freedom of choice. Each week at Bucksmont, we share our offering with a different cause or organization in the community. For the month of July, we are sharing with Equate, E-Q-A-T. Earth Quaker Action Team is a grassroots, nonviolent action group including Quakers and people of diverse beliefs who join with millions of people around the world fighting for a just and sustainable economy. We ask that you participate in our morning offering in one of these ways. You can write out a check to Bucksmont and mail it into the fellowship. You may donate online now or at the end of our worship service, or you may place your donation into one of the baskets as they are passed. We will now receive the morning offering. Our community Is it on?
Working on it.
Our community continues to grow and thrive due to generous donations of both time and money. For the many ways that you contribute and how it sustains this fellowship, we are truly grateful. This morning's reading is A Gray Whale and Her Calf in the Laguna San Ignacio by Reverend Robert Walsh, retired UU minister. Come, little one, I will take you to meet the humans, the creatures that skim about on the surface, living in the air, supported by their noisy boats. It is important for you to know about them. The humans here are our friends. They will not hurt you. Other humans, whom we may meet on our long journey northward, will try to kill you and me and other members of our pod. But these humans are our friends. Here is one of their boats. Hear the voices? There are young ones in this boat who are eager to see us. Hear them squeal with delight. Put your head above the water and see them. Swim next to me under the boat and look at them from the other side. The elders teach that the humans come hoping to learn from us, to learn about the preservation of the earth. Okay. I am not sure of this, but if there is even a small chance that is true, then we must impart this wisdom. It is not done with language, for we do not speak their language. It is done simply by looking into their eyes and they into ours, and by touching. Come now, next to me, and rise next to the human's boat, so they may touch us. There, it is done.
Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book, a reading rainbow. I can go anywhere, friends to know and ways to grow, a reading rainbow. I can be anything.
The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. Legend fades to myth, and even myth is long forgotten when the age that gave it birth comes again. In one age, called the Third Age by some, an age yet to come, an age long past, a wind rose in the mountains of mist. The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to the turning of the wheel of time, but it was a beginning. This is the opening paragraph to The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, which was published on January 15th, 1990. I was 5 years old then, and it would take until junior high for me to be handed this book by one of my best friends. From that moment on, this series has been part of my imagination. It spans 15 books, as well as short stories and other anthologies, for a total of almost 12,000 pages, or 4.5 million words, making it one of the longest stories in print. There are 2,787 named characters, making the world lush and complex, some of whom appear once, and others pop up 3 books later for a cameo. I've reread the early books countless times since it took a total of 23 years for them all to be published, and since the story's completion. Wheel of Time fans joke, when you finish the final book, what do you do next? You start again. I completed my most recent reread during sabbatical, and the joy of a story so big and so detailed is that after dozens of reads, you will still notice new things, even surrounded by scenes and characters you revisit year after year. If I'd been able to be with you today, the book I would have brought to share would have been a paperback copy of The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. There are times I will be lost in thought, and one of the passages of the book will come to mind. The story draws from many cultures and world religions, some of which I first learned about through the lens of this fictional world, and then relearned the real world source much later in life. For a young person in a small town, this series was one map of a world beyond. Growing up, I was an avid reader. A monthly trip to the bookstore in the next town over, where I was on a first-name basis with the owner and several staff members, was the thing to look forward to most. The first series to take root for me was Animorphs, which I purchased the first 3 of at a book fair in my elementary school. I remember the magic of those rolled carts that unfold to make bookstores appear in hallways and lunchrooms. Today I still have every book in the series of more than 60 installments on my bookshelf here at home. We didn't have a lot of money, so the school library supplemented my reading habits. Though the collection I was interested in was sparse, and I soon outpaced it, my bedroom then became my library, bookshelves becoming a much more important use of wall space than posters. Part of my closet also gave way to more shelving, as did the space under my bed. Moving first to college and then frequently after that, my home library was always the first thing packed and the most taxing to move. While the particulars may vary, I imagine many hearing these words were the bookish kid growing up, or are the bookish kids today, or the bookish adult still wrestling with how to manage the collection, even with the advent of digital and audiobooks. But why? Why do we hoard books like dragons do gold? And why are they so hard to let go of once we've completed them? My connection with books is multifaceted. In school, they were a source of knowledge and a way out. I knew hazily somewhere around 4th or 5th grade, and definitely by 6th grade, that books and grades were the best path out of my small town. I wasn't a star athlete. I didn't come from money, but I could learn almost anything. tested well, and actually enjoyed learning for the sake of finding out things I didn't know. Books were the building blocks and the keys to whole worlds I hadn't even dreamed of. Math and science were interesting to me, but the places I really connected were English, history, and social studies. Anything to do with how people lived in different times and places. Reading 1984, Dante's Inferno, and Animal Farm in school all left a mark on me. Beyond schoolwork was where my reading really took off, though, particularly fantasy and sci-fi. I got in trouble in school for many of the normal kid things, talking in class and goofing off in the back of the room. But have you ever been sent to the principal's office for reading? I have, multiple times. I had a book or three on me at all times, and the moment I could shift to one instead of the lecture of the day, I did. I fell asleep in my bed reading a lot. I think I was in 10th grade the first time I pulled an all-nighter, reading a fantasy series, which was finally coming to a close, not studying. My mom even occasionally had to ban reading at the dinner table. The idea that there were more stories out there, too many stories, and I'd likely never get to them all, spurred me on in those early days. But then I started to find my favorites, like The Wheel of Time and Animorphs mentioned earlier. I don't remember which story it was, but the first time I read about a gay person was in a book. Not long thereafter, I would see characters in television and movies. Even in the stories that didn't have any gay content, I found characters to connect to. In junior high, reading about different worlds and magic helped me imagine the far more mundane possibilities of creating a life where all of me fit. I didn't know exactly how or where, but if it were possible to imagine whole universes where anything was possible, it seemed then very possible to carve out a different way to live than I'd seen around me up to that point. Stories did more than feed my imagination, though. They were also the safe place of retreat during hard times. When the reality of my present moment was too much, I could dive into a book. There were times I went too far in this direction looking back, and finding the balance between reality and fantasy was a big part of my adolescence. My real world was grounded with a few close friends and a small immediate family. Beyond those circles, I bided my time and supplemented with stories of how things might be elsewhere. When I was sick, I read. When I was lonely, I read. When I was excited about a book, I read. It is fairly surprising to me that I never considered how one becomes a librarian, but I didn't. Instead, I just wanted to read more and learn more. The applicability of that reading wasn't the point for a very long time. However, what all this reading did accomplish was making it harder for me to believe the world was as simple as so many around me would have me believe. Terry Pratchett wrote, "Stories of imagination tend to upset those without one." And while that quip may be funny, I think the truth is that seeking stories, stoking curiosity, is dangerous when people try to say a certain group of people are bad in some way, just for being who they are. Whether the group be religious, racial, gendered in some way, or a sexual orientation. Many, many stories boil down to overcoming prejudice of the unknown and making friends across boundaries. You don't have to read many books to find this through line, which is a challenge if a parent, teacher, pastor, or friend is telling you to shun so-and-so because they are fill in the blank. Reading books has a particular power to change minds. I think it is a different process than hearing a lecture, or someone reading aloud, or even than watching a movie or TV show. Though these ways all share stories, too. When I read a text, my inner world is engaged in a particular way. The scenes from the words are literally given shape in my mind because I need to imagine them. Think about what the characters look and sound like instead of internalizing it in the voice of someone else. Picturing the rooms they occupy, the worlds they traverse, takes effort and leaves an indelible mark upon the reader, as does listening to the thoughts of the characters as they encounter situations, something impossible in the real world. Reading stories causes them to stick with me in ways that watching or listening to stories do not. Perhaps this is more about my learning style than anything else, but I remember the first time I read Running with the Demon by Terry Brooks more powerfully than the first time I watched The Fellowship of the Ring, which I remember liking then and still do, but couldn't tell you much more than that from that first watch. Instead, I can tell you the room I was in, the way I felt, and the time of year it was when I finished the first story by Terry Brooks that I'd read up to that point. I think this is part of the fear organizations like Moms for Liberty and other hate groups have toward books that talk about the lives of people not like them, particularly LGBTQ and people of color focused stories. These stories could do a couple of different things for the reader. They could reflect the reader in a way that may be rare for them in this world. To read about someone wrestling with the same ideas and identities as you is healing. It eliminates a sense of isolation and empowers the reader to continue on knowing that there are others like them, even if they haven't met them yet. For those readers who do not share particular identities with those in the story, there is a chance for something different, but still powerful. Empathy and curiosity. To have the safe space of a story to learn, think, and consider how someone else's life is different from one's own plants seeds of tolerance and hopefully the even more powerful acceptance of difference. Here we find the bannable dangers in stories. If your worldview is that being gay is learned, then gay stories are a threat. If your worldview is that gay people shouldn't even be tolerated, then characters that you can relate to and even love who have a different sexual orientation cannot be allowed. This is the myth that so many pieces of political and cultural storytelling are trying to make reality today. And honestly have been trying to make reality over and over again, generation after generation, a reality in which no one is LGBTQ, that people of color should be separate, that non-Christians should not be noted in public life, that all bodies should work the same way, and that families come in a narrow band of acceptable configurations. This world has never existed. It is as imagined as the dragons, hobbits, Aes Sedai, and other elements of the stories I have loved my entire life. The difference is, I do not advocate that we try to make my stories into law, nor do I advocate that only my favorite stories are acceptable to be read by others. And I do not advocate that we tell stories that erase the existence of real people. I've included on page 2 of our order of service today the top 13 banned books of 2022. Most are banned because they have LGBTQ content. Some tell the story of racial identity. Some do both. We are never too old to read a new book. Maybe your summer reading list can include some of these, which people claim should be banned from public and school libraries. I think it is better to know what is being kept from us and the young people in our communities instead. Whether your favorite stories are fiction or nonfiction, set in worlds that have never existed or eras long past, are sources of entertainment or opening your heart to different ways of being, my hope is that you read beyond your typical topics now and then. My other hope is that you share book recommendations with those in your life, particularly the youngest people in your life. Leave books around to be discovered. Make library and bookstore trips the best part of the month. Never stop reading. And when someone tells you a book is dangerous, buy 2 copies. So may it be.
Okay, so the next hymn is hymn number 326, Let All the Beauty We Have Known. And please rise as you are willing and able to join us in singing.
Let us now enter into a time of awareness within ourselves and connection to one another, connection to that interdependent web of life of which we are each but one small thread. As we breathe in, we are connected. As we breathe out, we are connected. This morning I share Creation Story by Reverend Mark Bellatini, a retired UU minister. Dying stars condensed themselves into stardust once, and stardust condensed itself into the elements of earth. The elements of earth condensed themselves into living cells. Living cells condensed themselves into organisms that swam and crawled on land, then thundered through the trees. Organisms that were great in size condensed themselves into creatures fleet of foot and deft of mind, who could gaze at the faint stars and wonder if the light was their father, if the nourishing earth embracing them was their mother. These quick creatures, small and uncertain, then condensed their human lives of honest struggle into lives of conquest and violence. Little by little, a few human hearts condensed themselves, smaller than those vast crowds around them who clamored for power, and gave power up for the burden of love given freely to all their brothers and sisters, even the hurt and the loud and the sad. Then these few amazing hearts condensed their saving insight into the word. Love one another. Love your neighbor as yourself. Know yourself and love yourself. Receive the love that embraces us all. And then those words condensed themselves even further into this small, small jewel of silence that sums the whole evolution of creation with the elegance and honesty of wordlessness. May we remember this story and the many, many stories we each hold. May we know that there are stories leading into our own stories that we will never know. And may we pass stories on to those we meet, as people always have. As we breathe in, we are connected. As we breathe out, we are connected. May our minds create a vision of the world radical enough to be called holy. May our actions contain the promise of hope and the commitment to justice. May our hearts remember that love is a power that resists all forms of fear. By our thoughts, by our actions, by our hearts, and by our very breath. May it be so.
As part of our caring outreach to one another, we set aside a few moments to note both sorrows and joys in our lives. In these moments of peace and reflection, we turn our attention to one another. We hold each and all in our compassionate thoughts and the prayers of our hearts. This morning we are dropping stones in water. The bowl includes some of the water we gathered as a community back in September, so it contains the love of our congregation surrounding each joy or sorrow. As we add the stones to the bowl of water, our experiences are given weight and depth. We add a piece of our own stories to the collective waters of this community, a place that also holds the memories of those who have gone before and anticipates those who have yet to arrive. To share the joy or sorrow you would like held by our caring community, please text the number that is in the chat box and on the sanctuary screens. Please include your name along with your sharing. It is the same number no matter how you join us today, and you can add it to your contacts for future weeks. I will read them aloud, and Yvonne will drop a stone on your behalf. What is shared today will go out in our weekly caring notes for those who cannot be with us this morning. Please remember to include your name with what you share. And now we will add a final stone for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken and deep within our hearts. With stones gathered and remembrances shared, we honor our joys and our sorrows, those shared this morning and the many more that exist beyond words. Through our time together, our relationships are deepened and our community made whole.
Please join us in singing our final hymn today, hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Rise as you are willing and able.
Our chalice extinguishing words this morning are from Tim O'Brien. Stories are for joining the past to the future. Stories are for those late hours in the night when you can't remember how you got from where you were to where you are. Stories are for eternity, when memory is erased and there is nothing to remember except the story.
As our community departs from this service, may we remember all who came before. May we imagine all who will come after. May we honor all who are present with us here and now. In our time together, we create this community, one of promise, one of commitment, one of story. In our time together, may each of us become a sanctuary for all we meet on the journey. May we go together now and return again.